Welcome to the DSO Hygienist podcast, where we deep dive into the world of DSO hygiene. I'm your host, Christine Deal. I'm a practicing clinical hygienist with over 30 years of experience. 7 years ago, my private practice was bought by a DSO. I am an advocate for hygienists working in the DSO space. Discover how DSO hygienists can advance their careers and make a meaningful impact in the field. From career growth opportunities to in-depth discussions on the challenges and triumphs of the DSO hygienist, in this podcast, we will provide exclusive insights, expert interviews, and real stories from passionate hygienists who are making a difference. You won't want to miss a single episode. Even if you aren't currently in the DSO world, you will benefit from a wide range of topics. Subscribe now to the DSO Hygienist podcast and be part of the conversation. Your journey to happiness and success begins here. A 20-year dental hygienist and founder, Melissa K. Turner is a sought-after executive, consultant, dynamic speaker, and top millennial content creator. Behind innovative brands in the industry, she partners with companies of all sizes, from pre-seed startups to billion-dollar brands, on-brand strategy, and product growth. Turner's combined experience behind the scenes, in the boardroom, on the front lines as a clinician, and as a public-facing influencer allows her unique insight into future industry trends. She is the founder and founding board member of multiple companies and is referred to as a fresh force of change. A 2024 recipient of the Marquis Who's Who in America, she represents a new generation in dentistry with a focus on transforming the future through innovative technology, inclusion, and practitioner well-being. Senior Executive Consultant and Chief Hygiene Officer at Celerant Consulting Group, Turner leads the Celerant Best of Class Hygiene Awards. She is a founding board member for the American Mobile and Teledentistry Alliance and holds a position on the executive board of the Dental AI Association. Affectionately known by her influencer handle, @TheToothGirl, she is the co-founder of the Denabi Awards, the National Mobile and Teledentistry Conference, and the iHeart Dentistry Network. Turner's newest launches include Smile Proud, an advocacy organization built to support current and future LGBTQIA+ dental professionals, as well as iWoman, a podcast for women founders, executives, and entrepreneurs, focusing on what it takes to unleash their inner roar in the boardroom, the bedroom, and beyond. Turner can be reached at www.melissakturner.com. I'd like to welcome our very special guest today, Melissa Turner. Thank you for joining us.
Christine, thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
Oh, it's my honor. I usually just get started with the questions, so let's do it. What inspired you to start sharing dental hygiene content online?
I was just thinking about this morning, Christine. Every morning I sit down after the kids go to school. I sit down alone. My husband's, starts his work early and I have my cup of coffee and I usually read a book, but it's the time when my mind kind of wanders. And I was thinking about that this morning. What inspired me to start pushing content? I think it's because I'd like to make positive change in the world. It comes down to that. I mean, there's many other factors, that go into that. But part of me, I'm always high level, big picture person and whatever I do. And part of me is like, I can see the changes coming in dentistry. Let's get there faster. And along the way, let's make positive change. Let's be more inclusive. Let's make our industry a better place for not just the patient, but the provider. And if anything, if I can change the world so that my own daughters can have a better life. I mean, that's a little selfish reason there, but that's also what it comes down to.
Yeah, I definitely love the positive. You always have really positive and your smile. I love it. How do you stay updated on the latest trends and advancements in dental hygiene?
There's two different ways that I do that. The first is by having the information come to me. And this is something that, I'd say, like, I'm a millennial, right? I think any generation younger than me isn't kind of relying on email as much as my generation does, your generation. And so simply I sign up for every email list out there that has dental information. And that way, I even set up Google alerts for things. That way things land in my inbox every day. And it's a lot of stuff that lands, but that's one of the ways I pay attention to the technology that's out there, the things that are coming down the line. And then the other way is through networking, through face-to-face. You and I have seen each other at a lot of conferences. I do a lot of local conferences, a lot of national conferences. And not even always about dental, about healthcare, about small business ownership, about, entrepreneurship, speaking. And to me, it's really invaluable, the nuggets that we can get from just face-to-face interaction, right? If somebody is using a product and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Of course, I'm going to, go figure it out and research it myself. And having that person's, backing it up is enough for me to really consider and stay up to date on whatever it is.
Yeah. Now, this is kind of a weird question, but I just thought it was so funny. And I just thought I got to ask you. So could you share your daily oral care routine?
I love it. I don't often get asked that question. Okay. So I flip-flop between a lot of the electric toothbrushes on my counter, right? I have my favorites. Okay, so in the morning, what I'll do is I'll brush my teeth with, right now I'm using a Crest Oral-B toothbrush, but that's also sitting beside a black electric toothbrush, which is sitting beside the Philips toothbrush. And I'll use whatever toothpaste I have on hand, which is, I don't know when the last time I bought toothpaste, right? But right now, one of my favorites is Carry Free. That has a lot of nano-hydroxyapatite in it. And I am cavity prone. I got all of my cavities in hygiene school because I was drinking Mountain Dew. I was drinking Mountain Dew at hygiene school. And then I'd go to be a waitress on the weekends at a restaurant, and they had, that never-ending fountain of Mountain Dew. Anyway, so I am very cavity prone, so I need that nano-hydroxyapatite. And that's something that I want to dive into a lot, in the future. We're seeing where that goes and how that can benefit us. So that's the toothpaste I'm currently using. And then I will floss. I just got a Slate electric flosser. Have you tried that?
I have not, but I've seen it everywhere. It looks so cool.
Yes. So I'm working with them on some influencer campaigns too, because I truly believe in the product. And I hate flossing. Before this, I'd floss maybe once a week, right? Like it's so bad to even admit that, but I would. But what I found is this electric flosser kind of anchors to the electric toothbrush. So like I'll brush my teeth with the electric toothbrush, then it's just one and the same. And so it's really helped me just floss every day. And I also realized I hate sticking my fingers in my mouth. Like I didn't realize, I knew that was a reason why people didn't floss, but I didn't realize that was a reason why I didn't floss, right? And so now it's been months now and I floss every day and it's wonderful. So then after I do that, then I'll use BioGaia, one of the supplement pills. And it's a probiotic for your mouth. Wonderful. It takes away bad breath. It really has helped my inflammation go down in the areas where I wasn't flossing, So one of those things. And then let's see. And then nothing until the evening where I electric toothbrush. I have something called a Stimmy. I don't have it with me right now, but that's also another one of my favorite tools. So that I usually keep in my pocket every day. But my friend Stephanie Nightingale is a Canadian hygienist. And a while ago, she had an idea to revamp the rubber tip stimulator.
Yeah.
Right. And so she got the patent through, she designed it, she found the manufacturer, and just a couple months ago, she released the first batch. It's called a Stimmy, and it's about 3 inches long. You can put it in your pocket, and it's kind of looks like Suave, like an Apple product. But it's a reusable rubber tip stimulator. And I had no idea, Christine, that I would use it every day. I had no idea that I would keep it in my pocket. But especially now, since I'm getting older, like for some reason, I think my gums are getting healthier and that's why food gets stuck, but there could be other things going on. But it's berry season and I'm eating so many of the fresh vegetables and stuff in my garden and things just get stuck. And so that's, to me, is with me every day. So that's my oral care routine. Take it or leave it for what it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And it's good to find out about new products. And I'll be on the lookout for both of those, the flossing and the STEMI. Thanks. So how do you handle challenges of creating engaging content for your audience?
That's the question of the decade. I think the biggest thing that we can do is be authentic, in a time where so much information and so much marketing is being sent to everyone. The thing that's going to shine through is authenticity. And even in dentistry, when I first started 20 years ago, the only people that were marketing to hygienists or practice owners were the big distributors, the big manufacturers, just a handful of them, really. And now in the last 20 years, because of 3D printing, because of AI, because of all this innovation that we have at our fingertips, now all kinds of startups have entered the industry, right? So now everyone is marketing to everyone in dentistry. And so I think the only thing that can cut through that is authenticity. I'm like, if I'm creating a social media campaign, rarely do I ever schedule posts ahead of time. I'll always do it in the moment because if Britney Spears did something funny, I'll want to mention that. Or if there's something going on in the world, I'll want to tie it all in, whether, like subliminally or even be upfront about it. And so being authentic and catching things in the moment are really two of the ways that you can help engage the audience on social media.
Yeah, you're really right about that. I never thought about that, but keeping current events in there as well would be really cool. Yeah. So what's the most rewarding part of being a dental hygiene influencer?
I think the risk that comes with it. I didn't know I was such a risky person. And I'm not. Sure, I want to skydive, but other than that, I don't ski. I don't do anything else that's risky, right? I don't like going fast in cars. But I think the most rewarding thing is the risk. And when I say risk, I mean, even to this day, sometimes I'll be like, I'm a dental influencer. I know what you think. Sometimes it's difficult because some people don't take you seriously. Mm-hmm. And also people don't know what it is and what it means. And so that's what that risk is that I'm talking about. I love if a group is over here doing something, I like to be way over on the other side doing something else, doing it differently, asking why, right? And so when I first started calling myself a dental influencer, it was a little bit humbling, to be honest. It was a number of years ago, and I hadn't seen anybody put those two words together, dental and influencer. And so I was on LinkedIn, and I tinker with LinkedIn every week, my profile, just redesigning it and figuring out what brand, what strategy do I want to put out there. And at that point, I decided to put dental influencer in the byline, in my tagline. And I tell you, it was a little bit scary. I thought I'll put this up for a month and I'll see, what comes back to me. And great things happened. And so now it's come to the point where I'll be even putting, I've been hosting some webinars recently on how to utilize dental influencers from a company standpoint. And also from a speaker standpoint or an industry leader like you. There's a lot of key opinion leaders that are influencers or call themselves influencers, but they're not really. And then there's a lot of influencers that call themselves key opinion leaders, but these are two separate marketing schemes, marketing tactics. And so it's a very different thing if a company hires me as a key opinion leader versus if they hire me to work with me as an influencer. It's a completely different set of tools and strategies. And so, when I first put dental influencer on my LinkedIn, I had no idea where it would go. And now, years later, it's just a privilege to be able to influence the industry, to have that influence.
Yeah, I think I saw heard one of your webinars. on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was great. So if you can find it, definitely check that out. So what is can you share a memorable or feedback that you got from a follower that really impacted you?
One of the things about being in the public eye, whether you're a speaker, a podcast host, a KOL, an influencer, one of the hardest things is that you have to be very vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable in the fact that, like, okay, I'm going to put out a picture and somebody might nitpick something. It might go viral for the wrong reasons. Or as a speaker, I might say something and the whole crowd might start attacking. It's a very vulnerable thing. And anytime I post or anytime I come on a podcast, things like that, I literally have to do like breathing exercises to say it's okay. Like whatever happens, it's going to be okay because it is a vulnerable thing. But it's the little moments that are so rewarding. And in this past year, I had a fellow hygienist come to me and she said, Melissa, I would like to spend some more time with you because out of all of the industry leaders that I see influencing and being on stage, she said, you're the only one that I see myself in. And
Aww.
she was coming at it from, she's a mom, she wants to make significant change in the industry. She's bubbly, she's, and that moment was so rewarding. So it's the small moments, because if I can even help change one person's life, then my job is done. Right. So, and what it taught me too was I am, as a millennial dental influencer, I am very different than a lot of the other influencers out there. I'm a little bit older. I'll say that. I have my kids, right? I'm not in it to be flashy. I'm not in it to be selfish. I'm not in it just to be in the limelight. I'm in it to literally spread the word of all of these good tools and products and innovation and methods and systems that are coming down the line. And if this is an easy way to get my message across, then so be it. But it meant a lot when she said to me that I was really the only one that she saw herself in, and that you can be a mom and have, a career in the spotlight at the same time. So that was very heartfelt.
Aw, that's so sweet. So sweet. What tips would you give to someone that's looking to improve their social media presence?
Mm-hmm. It all comes down to being very intentional. In a couple of weeks, I'll be at DS World and I'll be presenting a course to practice owners. And the title is Social Media is Your Own Worst Enemy. But the course is about how to grow their practice on social media. And the premise really is, Christine, it's the idea that if we're not careful, then it can take over our lives. If we're not careful about being intentional on social media, about promoting ourselves, about, promoting our career, our businesses, it's easy to get sucked in and be on it 10, 12 hours a day and it be fruitless in the end. So if we can just take a couple minutes and educate ourselves on best practices, best social practices, on how that ties into a greater brand strategy, on how it kind of ebbs back and forth between, hey, if you have this virtual presence, you really should have an in-person presence to complement the virtual presence too, and make sure they're consistent. It's interesting. I read a statistic the other day that said, and I think this was a maybe 2022 statistic. It said that Americans are on their phones for 4 hours a day, 4 hours and 24 minutes, I think it said.
Wow.
To me, that seems right, But I thought to myself, I'm going to do the math because at 80 years old, I want to know how much time, would I have spent on my phone, let alone a computer, on my phone. And I did the math and I looked at the numbers and I was like, this can't be right. This absolutely can't be right. So I sat my husband down and I said, okay, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Here's the statistic. And he got the same numbers. And so at this rate, if we're on our phone 4 hours a day, by the time we're 80, we will have spent 10 years of our life on our phone. And when he confirmed that number, I flipped. I completely flipped. I said, okay, my kids are only allowed 1 hour of screen time a day. I'm going to decrease that, right? Like,
Right.
I don't want them on. I don't want us hunched over, I want us to be face to face and have that communication with other people, not just sucked into our screens all day long. So with content and social media, I am rarely on social media for more than an hour a day. Weekends, I take off completely. It's one of these things. It's a tool in our toolbox. And yes, you can make money off of social media. You can have a career based on social media, but it doesn't mean it has to run our lives. And I think that's the mistake that I'm seeing a lot of people unintentionally make, because they think the more I post, the better it'll be. But if we can just harness down on a good few strategies on social media, like picking one platform and focusing on that versus thinking they have to focus on all of these platforms, focus on one platform, create your posts to do well on that platform. And then, yes, post that post on all the other platforms. But if you focus on that one platform, it helps you narrow down your messaging. And that's where you start to see the ROI come back.
That's great advice. That is really good advice. How do you balance your online presence with your professional and personal life?
It's interesting. I'll take that into two parts. Anytime I'm on social media, if you see me posting, it's never in the moment. So like if I'm going to a dental event, I see people around posting on their phones, going live, on Instagram and that kind of thing. That's great. That's all well and good. But if I am there doing that, then that means I cannot maximize the in-person time that I can spend with you or others, or the potential to meet that one person I always wanted to meet, or the potential to meet the unknown, cool person that I've never met before. And so rarely will I actually post things in the moment. I'll usually wait till I come home and then post about that event. And then remembering too that how I come across in person needs to match how I come across on social media. I don't want to be that person who, is super filtered, just even appearance wise on social media. And then people meet me and they don't even know who I am because they don't recognize me. Or the same thing with like the voice that I use. And everybody has a distinct written voice versus a distinct, like speaking voice. But I work hard to try to be consistent with who I am on social media versus who I am in person. But then also, work-life balance that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, right. So what future projects or goals are you currently working on?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the longest term goal that I have right now is to help the industry move to a prevention-based model of care. One of the hardest things that I see that dental practice owners have to deal with and hygienists have to deal with is the simple fact that how we've built these clinical business models is based on an antiquated business model. It's based on how dentistry first started and when it was very disease focused. And we keep seeing healthcare move into a more preventive based model of care. And dentistry is going to be that way as well. But those preventive clinical models don't necessarily fit the model we have now. And I'm talking as far as like how we schedule and how we treat our patients, and the idea that the dentist comes in to do every hygiene check and scope of practice. I'm talking about everything we do. And even how we bill out with our patient. The dental insurance is antiquated. So my longest term goal, I would say, is helping the industry shift into that mindset, and then having the objective steps come after that. What does a preventive based dental business look like? That'll come down the road. But right now it's all about mindset shift. I can't tell you how many companies have come to me over the last 10 years specifically, and they say one thing. They say, Melissa, we know prevention is the future of the industry, and we know dental hygienists are the future of the industry. So that alone says a lot. I mean, over and over again, that's what they'll say.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, Melissa. How can our listeners get a hold of you if they want to find out more?
Well, you're always welcome to DM me on Instagram at The Tooth Girl. And then I do have a website, melissakturner.com. And there's a contact me widget on there for you. And I do answer every email. So go ahead and send them.
Well, thanks again for being on today, Melissa. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the DSO Hygienist podcast. Please follow or subscribe to be alerted of new episodes.